All right, welcome back. We are doing day 2 of compound inequalities. So these are going to be the AND version. This is very similar, but we're going to see that our graphs are going to look a little bit different. So our two main goals are the same. We're going to be solving multiple inequalities within the same problem, and we're going to be graphing them both on the number line. The big change is that we're going to be writing our interval notation with two non-infinite numbers. So we're going to be a little more restricted on our possible numbers. So we jump to our example. We see that we might have something that says x is greater than -3 and it's less than 2. So the word "and" means that we're having more rules to follow. The more rules there are, then the smaller pool of numbers we have to choose from. When you have "or," that gives quite a few options, but "and" is going to actually make our number pool smaller, even though that's opposite of how our life works sometimes. Because if you get this and that, you get more stuff. If you have to choose between that or that, you get less. But in math, it's sort of opposite. So if we were to graph this on a number line, we would see that x has to be greater than -3. So I have an empty circle at -3, and I'm going to be shading to the right. But we also have to follow the rule that x is less than 2. So that would be shaded to the left. So the only values of x have to be between -3 and 2. So because we have two rules, we have a smaller number pool. Technically, it's still an infinite number of numbers because we can go into decimals, but you can see that we can't have anything over here or anything to the right of 2. When we are writing this inequality, we can write that in condensed form. We don't have to have the variable written twice like we do here. We can say that x is greater than -3 and less than 2. And you will need to write in condensed form for your assignment today. Interval notation, it's actually, in my opinion, a little bit easier. We can see that these are empty circles, so we're going to be using parentheses. So our numbers have to fall in the range of -3 to +2. So we don't go to negative or positive infinity if your inequality has "and." On future assignments, you'll have to figure out if it's an "and" or an "or" problem, but today you should have all "and" problems, unless I made a big mistake, which hopefully I didn't. All right, when we are solving problems like on the homework assignment, you basically have 4 steps. You are going to solve the inequalities, write the inequality in condensed form, graph them on a number line, and write the interval notation. So when we are graphing or solving inequalities, we're still unwrapping and isolating the variable, but we're going to do the same step to 3 sides at once. That'll make your life a little more efficient. So here for number 1, we are thinking of our inequality symbols as sort of our 3 sides. When we subtract 6 in the middle, we have to do that on the right and the left. So that'll leave us with -10 is less than 2x, which is less than or equal to -2. And then we're dividing everything by 2. And we have -5 is less than x, less than -1. So what we can see here is we have our condensed form and we've solved the inequality. So that means that we have our 2 points and x has to be greater than -5 but less than or equal to -1. So if I was to draw that on a number line, because I want to get all my points, I would have an empty circle at -5, a filled in circle at -1, and my number has to fall in somewhere between. For my interval notation, I see that I go from parentheses -5, and then I have a bracket, because it's a filled-in circle, to -1. So my x value has to fall within that range. Okay, one more example. Going to be subtracting 4 from both sides. We end up with 2 less than or equal to -2x, which is less than 8. And when we divide by -2, we have to remember that we're going to need to flip the inequality. So this is -1 is now greater than or equal to x, which is less than -4. So we now see that x is going to be greater than -4 and less than -1. When you write your inequalities, you really do want your inequalities to be facing to the right, so that way you go from smallest to greatest. So I am just going to rewrite this as x is greater than -4, less than or equal to -1. If you had this top version, that would be acceptable, but when you see it written, it's probably going to be like this, just from least to greatest. So x is greater than -4 and it's less than -1. So if I had a quick number line, have an empty circle at 4, filled in circle at this -1, shaded in towards the middle. And that's where my x value has to fall. And my interval notation, I would have a parentheses, -4, because it's an empty circle, and then all the way to -1 with a bracket, because it could be, it's less than or equal to -1. Hope these make sense, and let me know if you have questions.